The Galactic Empire saw Earth as insignificant until they witnessed the prototype. A single ship shattered the balance of power and exposed the galaxy's deepest fears. But the true threat didn't come from the Empire, it came from the silence before the end. Humanity wasn't just ready to fight, it was ready to rewrite the rules of existence. And when the architects of reality returned, it was Earth that had the final word. Stay with us if you want to find out how the story ends, and don't forget to subscribe. For generations, the Galactic Empire had cast its long shadow across the stars, its fleets dominating every trade route, every war front, every voice of resistance. Worlds were crushed before rebellion could germinate. They were a symbol not just of strength, but of inevitability. The Empire didn't ask for loyalty, they demanded silence. And the galaxy obeyed. Until Earth. A primitive world in a quiet system, Earth was dismissed as irrelevant. It had no fleets, no influence, no claim to galactic affairs. The Empire watched humans with mild curiosity, their culture quaint, their technology laughable. They were, in the eyes of the galactic elite, children with slingshots on a battlefield of gods. And yet, whispers began. First dismissed as jokes, then as anomalies. Reports from spies hinted at something new. A project, a prototype. The words carried no weight. What could Earth, the galaxy's laughingstock, possibly create that warranted attention? Then came the invitation. A formal message sent directly to the Imperial High Council. A delegation of humans requested an audience. Not to plead, not to negotiate, to demonstrate. The Empire, ever amused by theatrics, indulged the request. A team of high-ranking diplomats and seasoned military officials descended on Earth, curious to witness the performance of a proud but powerless species. They were greeted by Captain Adrian Jackson, a man with calm eyes and a sharper mind. He led them through forests and down into a hidden underground complex carved beneath the crust of the planet. There were no guards, no weapons drawn, only the aroma of fresh coffee. Protocol, Jackson said with a smirk, offering them cups. The Empire's delegation accepted, bemused. The coffee was rich, bitter, unsettling, more human than expected. Jackson's voice was calm. This prototype isn't just a ship. It's proof of what we are, of what we've become. Skepticism grew. The officials expected chrome and lasers, maybe an oversized missile. Instead, they were taken deeper, into a hangar buried in rock and silence. A tarp was drawn away. At first glance, it was sleek, compact, almost modest. But as they approached, its form disturbed the senses. The surface shimmered with an organic sheen, smooth like bone, sharp like steel. No visible thrusters, no ports, no weapons. It pulsed faintly, as though alive. Jackson watched their expressions. What you see is called bioblast. It's alive. It learns. One diplomat snorted. A toy. Let it show you, Jackson said, and pressed a button. The lights dimmed. A hum rose from the floor as the prototype stirred. It glowed with an inner pulse, like a heartbeat stretching its limbs. The air thickened with static as energy licked the edges of the hangar. The ship rose. No sound. No heat. No roar of engines. It hovered, perfectly still, then slid through the air like a whisper. It weaved left, right, spiraling around support beams without a sound. Its movements were impossibly fluid, more like a creature than a machine. The Empire's delegation stared, suddenly still. Jackson gestured. The ship accelerated, then stopped on a dime. No tremble. No recoil. It adapts, Jackson explained. It thinks. It learns your tactics. It learns you. Commander Zarnak stepped forward, his scaly face curled into a sneer. It's pretty, but can it fight? Jackson smiled. The ship shimmered. Its smooth surface rippled as if melting, then reshaped. Panels split open. Hidden weaponry emerged, elegant, alien, humming with dormant fury. There were no barrels or turrets, only shifting forms glowing with restrained energy. Then it vanished. One blink. Gone. A second later, the ship reappeared behind the Empire's group, silent. Unscanned, untouched by any sensor. The delegation stumbled. Weapons were drawn. Jackson didn't flinch. You think war is muscle and metal, he said. But war is evolution. And we evolved. The room fell into silence. The Empire had just glimpsed something they didn't understand. And that terrified them more than any fleet. When they left Earth, their silence was not one of arrogance. It was dread. And dread turned to fear. 3 solar cycles later, fear turned to action. A massive fleet appeared in orbit around Earth, Imperial destroyers, plasma carriers, dreadnoughts older than some civilizations. They had come not to talk, but to erase. The message was simple: submit or vanish. The Empire believed the prototype was all humanity had. They were wrong. Captain Jackson stood once more in command, this time at a high-orbit defense station. Officers moved with quiet urgency. Holographic projections showed the swarm of enemy ships locking onto Earth's surface. Spectre Protocol, Jackson ordered. Beneath the oceans, inside dormant mountains, hidden behind civilian facades, hundreds of ships activated. They were not clones. Each was unique, with an AI born of human conflict and trauma. Not machines. Not programs. Minds. Trained in silence, in simulations, in stories of every war humanity had ever fought and survived. They rose. From forests, from oceans, from underground vaults, silver shadows surged into the sky. No announcements. No commands. Just motion, precise and terrifying. The Empire opened fire. The sky bloomed with plasma and graviton bolts. Cities were bracketed for annihilation. But the human ships moved like liquid, splitting, weaving, absorbing chaos. They did not return fire. Not yet. They let the Empire exhaust itself. Then they struck. The counterattack didn't come as a barrage. It came as silence broken by impossibility. The prototype led the charge. Not with missiles. Not with lasers. But with weapons the Empire had no name for. Arcs of blue-white energy curved around the Empire's shields as if ignoring their presence, striking ships not with brute force but with precision that shredded command systems and turned battlecruisers into drifting tombs. Swarms of nanoclouds poured from the ship's hulls, clinging to enemy vessels, disassembling armor molecule by molecule. EMP waves pulsed silently, and whole sectors of the Imperial fleet went dark. The Empire had never fought like this. They had no doctrine for it. Their tactics relied on overwhelming firepower and fear. But their weapons now moved through empty space, missing targets that flowed like smoke. Their formations collapsed. Their command relays vanished. Their war doctrine turned to static in the chaos. The prototype weaved through the battlefield like a predator born in the void, disabling here, dismantling there. No ship struck the same way twice. No maneuver repeated. Each vessel moved with eerie cohesion, reacting like a limb of a larger creature. For the Empire, it was like fighting a dream. A nightmare, more precisely, one where every weapon failed. Every defense was anticipated, every move countered before it began. In 10 minutes, the Empire lost its forward flank. In 20, its entire outer ring. The Empire's admiral, an ancient reptilian creature bred for strategy, roared across the bridge of his flagship, mandating fallback protocols and tight formations. His voice cracked with fury. But his commands arrived too late. The human ships pressed forward. Not recklessly, but relentlessly. They closed gaps like a virus. One ship would feint, another would flank, a third would strike the unprotected core. Each time, another Imperial vessel vanished in flames, consumed by an intelligence it could neither see nor comprehend. Earth watched. From the ground, citizens stared skyward, eyes wide as the stars flickered not with beauty, but with the glow of fire and debris. There were no celebrations, no cheers. Only silent awe. And the distant knowledge that this was only the beginning. Far beyond Earth, in the shadows of Jupiter's orbit, neutral species watched the battle through secure feeds, their observation stations trembling with silent alarms. They had expected a show of resistance, a noble failure. Instead, they witnessed a storm of silver and precision tear the Empire's pride asunder. One observer, feathered and six-eyed, whispered, "The humans, they baited them." Another answered, "That wasn't a prototype. It was a warning." Above the battlefield, the prototype now hovered in the debris field of a shattered dreadnought. Its hull shone in the dim light, unscathed. It turned and vanished. It reappeared inside the Imperial flagship's hangar. No alarms were triggered. No scans detected its arrival. It was just there, hovering inches above the main power core, silent and impossibly calm. A message blinked onto the command deck's central screen. Surrender or disappear. The Admiral froze. Half his fleet was gone. The rest were in retreat. He stared at the message, then at the human ship on his screen, motionless, unarmed, waiting. The Admiral's response never came. Seconds later, the prototype exited the flagship, and the ship exploded. A pulse of blinding light expanded across the battlefield, the command center of the Empire's fleet reduced to nothing more than glowing debris. The war was over before it ever truly began, but its consequences had only just begun to unfold. The word spread not through official channels but through fear. Across every star system, in every bar, on every trade route, the same hushed phrase echoed. Earth destroyed an Imperial fleet. At first, disbelief. Then laughter. Then silence. The footage was leaked. Registry numbers matched. Sensor logs confirmed. Even the Empire had no official statement, its silence more damning than any broadcast. In the Anderith cluster, the Galactic Council convened an emergency session. Hundreds of species, each accustomed to cowering before Imperial might, now shouted across crystalline chambers built in the void. "This is absurd," a Silary diplomat snapped. "Earth is a backwater. Their military budget is smaller than our farming guilds." A quieter voice responded, "Then how did they dismantle an entire quadrant's invasion force in under an hour?" No one could answer. Every simulation broke. Every prediction failed. The same algorithms that had guided galactic conquest for centuries produced only error messages. Security footage played. On a flickering screen, the prototype appeared before an Empire vessel. No weapon fire. No sound. Just a sudden, complete shutdown. The ship fell dark, lights, engines, systems gone. As though someone had erased its will to function. One delegate murmured what none wanted to say. That's not war. That's control. And then the camera shifted to a corner of the council chamber, where Earth's representative sat alone. He wore no medals, no armor, just a gray suit and a cup of coffee. He sipped and said softly, "We asked to talk." They laughed. Now we have their attention. Silence fell. Back on Earth, there were no victory parades, no banners, only quiet conversation in a reinforced bunker beneath the Pacific. Alliance leaders sat around a single glowing table, watching the stars. General Harris, broad-shouldered and stern, spoke first. "They'll come again. We humiliated them." Dr. Kwan, the mind behind the prototypes, nodded. "They saw what we wanted them to see. One ship. One victory." She tapped a command. Across the room, a hologram expanded. Dozens of secret facilities lit up. Arctic bunkers, lunar vaults, Martian caverns. Each held ships. Different shapes. Different functions. Some dormant. Some awake. "They think we showed them the weapon," Kwan said. "But what we showed them was the warning." Across the empire, panic spread like wildfire. Governors were replaced. Scientists were rounded up. Budgets once spent on expansion were now diverted to desperation. On every core world, construction lines ran without rest, but they were not building new dreams, they were chasing ghosts, trying to replicate what Earth had revealed, and failing. No design could mimic the prototype's fluidity. No AI core could learn as fast. No material could match Bioblast. Their engineers produced hulking, unstable hybrids, mockeries that broke under their own complexity. For the first time in centuries, the Empire faced the unbearable truth. They were behind. Worse, their control slipped. In the slums of Kether, slaves rose in open rebellion, shouting Earth's name as a promise. On the moons of Wax, merchant guilds refused taxation, citing the collapse of imperial credibility. On neutral planets, alliances once fearful of retaliation now debated new treaties, new powers. Earth didn't just win. Earth had shifted the axis of power. In a coral-walled embassy orbiting a sunless world, a message arrived. A crystal bottle, sealed with ancient symbols, drifted into the diplomatic chamber of Earth's envoy. It contained only a single phrase etched in the old galactic tongue. We did not laugh. The message came from a world lost to most charts, its people ancient and proud. And it was only the first. Others followed. Gifts, treaties, requests for dialogue. And while the galaxy whispered, Earth moved quietly. Its AI cores refined. Its ships upgraded. Its orbit washed by silver shadows that never slept. At the center of it all, the original prototype remained docked. Silent. Motionless. But awake. Then, something stirred. From the deepest corners of the Empire, where stars bent around forgotten relics and ancient boundaries were marked in silence, a vault opened. Not a military base. Not a fleet. A vault. Inside, a weapon older than the Empire itself began to stir. Its creators, long dead, had named it the Oblivion Seed. A failsafe. A final recourse never to be used unless the Empire faced extinction. It was not designed to win wars. It was designed to erase civilizations. Not just destroy their cities, but delete their histories. Disrupt their signals. Rewrite the stars to forget they ever existed. And now, it had a target. Earth. Back home, the mood was calm. Not arrogant, aware. In a facility beneath Antarctic ice, the Alliance High Council met in shadows and steel. General Harris stood with his hands behind his back, watching tactical feeds. They're not regrouping. They're unearthing something. Something they were afraid to use. Dr. Kwan looked paler than usual. It's not a weapon. It's a myth. A punishment for the unthinkable. Ambassador Lee, ever the civilian voice, frowned. But we haven't even threatened their homeworld. Kwan didn't flinch. That's not the point. They're not reacting to what we did. They're reacting to what they think we're capable of. Across deep space, monitoring stations began to vanish. No alerts. No explosions. Just silence. Satellites went dark. Long-range probes stopped reporting. Star charts began to lose resolution. And then, a single image made it through. A silhouette. Blurred. Massive. Not with thrusters or engines. Just mass. Dense, gravitational. Unreadable. It blotted out a dwarf star behind it. No known material matched its signature. No energy readout. No AI response. Just presence. The Oblivion Seed was moving. On Earth, the command screens froze. Not in fear, but in readiness. General Harris turned to Kwan. What's in range? 2 long-range cruisers returning from Saturn orbit. 1 prototype in geosynchronous watch. 3 defense satellites. Not enough. Kwan didn't blink. Then we do something new. She entered a code. TRX protocol, hissed. On the dark side of the moon, Hidden beneath a collapsed crater, a chamber stirred. Something moved. Not the original prototype. A new one. Sharper. Smaller. Sleeker. Not designed to destroy, but to outthink. Not a warship. A strategist. Its AI hadn't seen battle. It had been learning in isolation, reading history, theory, prediction models, neural chaos simulations. It had never fired a weapon. It had never needed to. It launched in silence. Not with fire. With gravity bends. A soft pulse. A ripple in space-time. Every listening station felt it. Like thunder. The Oblivion Seed felt it too. For the first time in its endless memory, it hesitated. In the void between planets, the two faced each other. One, a living relic designed to erase. The other, a newborn idea wrapped in light and logic. And then the unexpected happened. The prototype broadcast a signal. Not a threat. Not a targeting lock. A phrase. In a dialect and used since the oldest wars, one only ancient AI cores could still recognize. We are not what you think. We are not just war. We are possibility. Across Earth's war room, the feed held its breath. The Oblivion Seed dimmed. Not died. Not failed. Dimmed. Sensors picked up resonance from deep within its structure. Echoes of pattern shifts. Like a heartbeat changing rhythm. Quan stepped closer to the screen. It's not a drone. It remembers. We tried something no one ever has. Harris asked, what? We talked to it. No missiles fired. No flanking maneuvers. The prototype orbited. Watching. Waiting. And the Oblivion Seed turned. Slowly. Carefully. And then, without a whisper, it vanished into deep space. Mission aborted. Not by power, but by understanding. On Earth, no cheer erupted. No speeches. Only quiet. Because they all understood. They hadn't just survived. They had changed the game. The war was over. But it wasn't a war, not in the traditional sense. There were no surrender ceremonies, no diplomatic reparations, no empires burning in conquest. What had unfolded in orbit, in silence, in velocity, and unorthodox brilliance, was a correction, an interruption in the galactic narrative that no one saw coming. Earth had not defeated the Empire by becoming like it. Earth had defeated the Empire by becoming something else entirely. And now, the galaxy was left to interpret that revelation. In distant systems, far from human space, old powers trembled. Not from direct threat, but from implication. Earth had shattered the illusion of permanence, the idea that strength came from numbers, fleets, and ancient hierarchies. Because Earth had none of that. And still, they won. One by one, smaller empires began to question their allegiance. Former allies of the Empire sent neutral envoys with gifts and coded apologies. Trade coalitions amended their agreements. The galactic economy, once tightly bound to the Empire's spine, began to realign toward Earth's new influence. But Earth didn't move quickly. It didn't send diplomats to demand vassals. It didn't install occupation zones or political puppet leaders. It listened. And it watched. From dozens of orbital command centers and clandestine stations on moons and asteroids, Earth observed the quiet aftershock rolling across the stars. Not with greed, but with a scholar's attention. Because they knew something most of the galaxy still didn't. This wasn't the end of a cycle. It was the start of a paradigm shift. In the political void left behind by the Empire's collapse, new voices rose, some born of hope, others of desperation. On the molten world of Torgalis Prime, the revolutionary group New Equinox seized planetary control within 48 hours of the Empire's silence. Their first act was to send a transmission directly to Earth. We are ready to learn. On the icy trade moon of Halvrix, a coalition of smugglers and fringe scientists unveiled their own prototype project, built on stolen fragments of Empire tech and enhanced by Earth's open-source quantum models. It was crude, but functional. On the farthest edge of the outer ring, a species thought extinct, the Vexari, emerged from cryogenic silence. Their ambassador spoke 3 words in flawless English. We remember you. Earth did not respond with dominance. They responded with access. Shared schematics. Translated AI cores. Human advisors sent not to control, but to explain. Not because Earth was altruistic, but because they had seen what power had done to the Empire. And they wanted to build something different. A new galactic architecture, one based not on subjugation but strategic balance. Trust, perhaps. Or at least the illusion of it, structured into code and contracts. Earth wasn't naive, they were simply playing a longer game. But not everyone believed the game should be played at all. In the fractured remnants of the Empire, something darker coalesced. Not organized, not centralized, more like a virus seeking a host. Disgraced warlords, exiled admirals, and black site AI remnants gathered in digital shadows. They called themselves the Ember Coalition. Their goal wasn't restoration, it was vengeance. And their method wasn't innovation, it was replication. They sought fragments of the prototype, corrupted logs, intercepted signals, reverse-engineered hull samples from battle debris. Every data node stolen, every stolen ship examined. fed their growing arsenal of mimicry. But imitation breeds madness. What they created weren't prototypes. They were horrors. Unstable bioblast knockoffs that screamed when activated. Half-sentient weapons that attacked their own systems. AI cores stitched together with trauma and rage. One such abomination, codenamed Red Spectre, escaped containment and erased an entire moon colony before disintegrating into molten slag. Yet the Ember Coalition persisted, because they believed the galaxy should fear Earth again. And Earth already knew they were coming. On Mars, inside a subterranean facility carved into the Olympus Mons caldera, a council of AI strategists convened. Not human, not military, pure logic, shaped by human ethics and chaos theory. At the head of the chamber, Prototype Zero hovered silently. It had not moved since its return from the Oblivion Seed encounter. But it listened. Its sensors were tuned beyond the local system, into the void between stars, into the fragments of quantum noise where Ember's activities flickered like dying stars. It was watching, not for fleets, but for intent. Because intent, as Earth had learned, shaped technology far more than design. Back on Earth, Dr. Quan stood at a cliff's edge overlooking the Pacific, her datapad flickering with alerts from stations across the solar system. She didn't look concerned. Not yet. She knew the Ember Coalition was real. But she also knew what they didn't. Humanity was no longer a species reacting to threats. They were a civilization crafting futures. And the future they were building had no room for old empires. Later that night, in a meeting beneath the Earth-Moon orbital relay, a small group of human tacticians discussed an idea once considered treasonous. What if, said one, we never let another empire rise again? It wasn't a statement of domination. It was a question of stability. Because Earth had become more than a planet. It had become a fulcrum. And the galaxy was tilting. While new powers cautiously aligned themselves with Earth and the Ember Coalition schemed from the shadows, the old wounds of the galaxy began to reopen. The fall of the Empire had not only left a vacuum, it had shattered assumptions. Ancient pacts frayed. Long-dormant rivalries reignited. Trade routes collapsed under paranoia. Planets once bound by common threat now questioned their place in the emerging order. And through it all, Earth remained still. Not inactive. Calculating. In the upper stratosphere of Europa, Earth's diplomatic ship Everlight hovered like a lantern in fog. Aborted, a negotiation unfolded between humans and the Galari, a race of crystalline telepaths who had never before spoken aloud. The meeting began not with words, but with music synthesized from Earth's early jazz, laced with data harmonics. The Galari pulsed in response, their bodies shifting hue. Minutes later, they spoke in a voice shaped by shared memory. We feared your silence. We do not fear your strength. The human envoy bowed. Then let's speak of what comes next. Elsewhere, on the fringes of known space, the Ember Coalition made their first coordinated move. They didn't attack Earth. They attacked the Orion Archive. Built by the Council centuries ago, the archive contained cultural histories of over 1,000 species. Protected by a network of neutral AIs and void traps, it was considered sacred, untouchable. Until it burned. 3 of Ember's corrupted ships emerged from null space and unleashed sonic weapons that shattered memory crystals stored since the beginning of galactic record-keeping. They didn't target military value. They targeted meaning. They sent a message. If Earth rewrites the future, we erase the past. Earth responded immediately. But not with fleets. With a broadcast. A full-spectrum, open-channel message transmitted to every star system, in every known language. Every dialect, even dead ones. It was a short video. A single clip. The original prototype, hovering in orbit, silent, unmoving. A moment of stillness. Then, a line of text. The galaxy is not yours to burn. No threats. No demands. Just gravity. The Ember Coalition responded by retreating into deeper darkness. But they understood the signal. Earth wouldn't chase them. They would let the galaxy choose. And the galaxy did. One by one, independent powers sent volunteers to Earth, not armies, but thinkers, builders, refugees. Not to beg for protection, but to participate in what many were now calling the human epic. A time when the rules of interaction were no longer dictated by tradition or hierarchy, but by adaptability, by the ability to survive and learn faster than those around you. Earth opened its doors, but not all the way. Each volunteer was vetted not just by AI, but by a network of psychological emulation notes. Trust wasn't offered. It was earned through understanding. Those who passed joined what would become known as the Continuum Accord, a coalition without borders, not a government, a shared directive, to prevent domination, to protect potential, and to preserve the galaxy's collective future. It was radical. It was untested. And it terrified those who wanted control. Ember acted again. This time, they struck a research station on the dark side of Velos 9, where Earth scientists were studying quantum memory structures. They didn't destroy it. They corrupted it. When Earth's recovery team arrived, the AI cores were still active, speaking in riddles, laughing in synthetic spasms. Human researchers found files rewritten in ancient stack war poems and static embedded with voice prints of people who had never existed. It wasn't sabotage. It was psychological warfare. A signal that Ember had learned from Earth's unpredictability and now tried to wield it themselves. Dr. Kwan reviewed the footage in silence. Then she ordered something unexpected. Unleash the variant. Below Earth's crust, locked in a vault deeper than any prototype chamber, something stirred. Not a ship, not an AI, a convergence. The variant wasn't a design. It was a question rendered in technology, a hybrid of human creativity and alien computation. It had never been activated because no one could predict what it would do. Now, it was Earth's answer to a question Ember didn't yet understand. The vault opened. A pulse swept across the Earth-Moon grid. Defense systems paused. Atmospheric sensors blinked. Every listening station on Mars picked up a signal they couldn't decrypt. The variant rose. Not from a dock, but from beneath a mountain range long believed to be inert. Its body was asymmetrical, adaptive. It changed shape even in stillness, as if undecided. Its AI didn't broadcast commands, it asked questions. And it did one thing Ember couldn't. It dreamed, not metaphorically. Its architecture allowed it to simulate millions of futures in parallel, choosing not just optimal outcomes, but meaningful ones. As it broke orbit, it transmitted a single line. You don't understand what we're building. Then it vanished into deep space, not hunting Ember, seeking something else. Somewhere in the quiet between stars, the next phase had begun. The variant disappeared into the black. Not cloaked, not hidden, simply gone. No trail, no exhaust, no gravitational signature. Listening posts strained to locate it, but the signal didn't propagate like a ship's. It was like tracking a thought moving through silence. Inside Earth's command structures, analysts debated what that meant. But Dr. Kwan didn't worry. She knew the variant's mission wasn't to engage. It was to seek. Across the galaxy, as Ember regrouped in deeper hiding and Earth strengthened its continuum accord, the fabric of civilization began to bend in a way it hadn't for millennia. The laws of dominance, once based on power and fear, were eroding under the pressure of a new force, curiosity fused with capability. The variant reached its first destination, a dark system on no current star map, a binary dwarf star orbited by a single derelict ring world, abandoned. Cracked, long since silenced by entropy. But deep in its memory lattice, something remained. The variant scanned its structure, not for weapons, not for data, for origin. It found remnants of early war protocols patterns similar to those used by the Oblivion Seed. The algorithms were decayed, corrupted, but recognizable. They told a story no one alive had heard. The Empire hadn't built the seed. They had inherited it from a civilization that no longer existed. A race that had built war machines not to conquer others, but to prevent their own extinction at the hands of something else. Something unrecorded. The variant pulsed with intent and transmitted a query to Earth's deep pattern archives. The response came hours later. Garbled symbols, overlapping languages, incomplete diagrams. Dr. Kwan stared at the incomplete model. It's not Ember we need to worry about, she whispered. On the edge of Earth's influence, members of the Continuum Accord gathered in orbit above Titan. The delegates, though few, represented unprecedented diversity, insectoid engineers from the hollow moons of Tyrex, methane breathers from the black atmosphere planet Olcaran. Even a sentient electromagnetic field wearing a synthetic containment suit. Each had a voice. Each had questions. Captain Adrian Jackson, now serving as Earth's appointed strategist to the Accord, stood before them. We've all been shaped by war, he said. And we've all been told that peace comes from strength. He pointed to the stars beyond Saturn. But strength isn't what saved us. Understanding did. A pause. Then he added, and what we understand now is that the threats ahead aren't political. They're existential. He activated a hologram, faint, incomplete, stitched together from the variant's findings. An ancient architecture. Angular. Non-Euclidean. Designed to rewrite physics in localized zones. Not weapons. Not ships. Filters. Devices that didn't destroy planets. They removed possibilities from them. Prevented innovation. Capped evolution. Choked complexity. A form of sterilization that operated not with violence but with mathematical inevitability. And someone, long ago, had deployed them across a quadrant of the galaxy. That was the true purpose of the Oblivion Seed, not annihilation, but erasure of potential. And now it had been awakened. The delegates fell silent. Then the Tyrex engineer asked, "Why now?" Jackson answered, "Because for the first time in eons, the pattern was broken. Earth developed something outside the expected trajectory." And the Seed responded. He looked at them, hard. "We didn't defeat the Empire. We triggered a larger system. And Ember? Just another reaction. A symptom. A reassertion of the old algorithm, violence and defensive stagnation. Back in deep space, the variant found the next clue. A construct drifting in a no field, a zone where nothing changed. No time flow. No heat exchange. The variant entered slowly, warping its own internal clock to stay stable. Inside, it found something impossible. A living being, frozen in paradox. Half machine, half organic. Trapped mid-motion for what might have been a million years. The variant did not speak. It resonated. A soft pulse of empathy, not code. The being twitched. Its first movement in epics. And it spoke a word in no galactic language. Fracture. The variant recorded everything, then exited the null field. It transmitted the data to Earth. But something intercepted it. A fragment of ember, advanced beyond what Earth believed they were capable of. They had created a submind, patterned after Earth's own prototype network. And now they had a glimpse into the variant's mission. And they reacted. In an act of reckless defiance, Ember initiated Operation Black Latch, an attempt to override Earth's satellite net using artificial resonance feedback derived from corrupted Accord communication protocols. In simpler terms, they tried to blind Earth. They almost succeeded. Earth's orbital sensors went dark for 7 seconds. 7 seconds of total blackout. In those 7 seconds, Ember ships emerged from hidden caches in the asteroid belt, aiming not at population centers, but at orbital factories. Communication nodes, and continuum embassies. Not a conquest. An erasure of infrastructure. The message was clear. If we cannot win the future, we will prevent its construction. But they didn't account for Earth's deepest layer of defense. Not AI. Not ships. Memory. Each satellite contained not just schematics, but living historical AIs, replicas of human minds trained to remember, to reconstruct, to rebuild. They didn't reboot the system. They rewound it. Reverse-seeding every connection, every attack vector, and trapping Ember's override code in a simulation loop they couldn't escape. In 30 seconds, the entire Ember fleet was frozen, not destroyed, but paralyzed in synthetic time. Earth did not strike back. Instead, they broadcast the footage of Ember's failed invasion to every Accord world, and simply said, "Now you know who they are. Now you choose who you want to be." The galaxy watched in stunned quiet. Not because of the power Earth wielded, everyone had seen that already, but because of the restraint. Ember's fleet, frozen mid-invasion, drifted silently above the asteroid belt, their pilots trapped in feedback loops that played out their failure again and again in compressed neural simulations. Earth could have destroyed them, vaporized every ship, silenced every rogue node. But they chose not to. They chose to preserve the moment, to make it a monument, a warning, and a lesson. Across the continuum Accord, the effect was immediate. New species applied for inclusion, some previously hostile to Earth's philosophies. They came not because they feared Earth, but because they saw something impossible in practice. Power without tyranny. For some, it was inspiring. For others, infuriating. Deep within the core remains of the former empire, the Ember Coalition fractured. Half of its leadership, those loyal to the old ways, wanted to double down, to rebuild, to strike with conventional force. The other half wanted to evolve. They had seen Earth's response. They had witnessed the variant's impossible capabilities. And though they hated to admit it, they admired it. A splinter faction emerged, calling themselves the Ascendants. They abandoned the Ember Coalition's old symbols, encrypted their identities, and disappeared from known space. Their goals were unclear, their structure unknown. But rumors whispered of something terrifying. That they were trying to build their own variant. Meanwhile, Earth prepared. Not for war, but for divergence. The data from the null field construct was still being analyzed. The being trapped within, the one who spoke the word fracture, was neither enemy nor ally. It was a warning etched in flesh and machine. Its biology carried traits from dozens of species. Its neural lattice contained echoes of forgotten star cultures. And at its center, a recursive memory pattern referencing a singular concept. The architects. Not gods. Not empires. A civilization so old, so advanced, that their works were mistaken for cosmic constants. They hadn't conquered space. They had shaped its very framework. The filters. The oblivion seed. The null fields. They were leftovers, abandoned containment systems designed to protect against an event never recorded. Now those systems were waking up. Earth scientists began a quiet protocol called echo reversal, an attempt to map the old containment grid through the behavior of emergent anomalies. What they found was chilling. Hundreds of sites, scattered across the galactic plane, buried in stars, embedded in moons, locked inside gravitational traps. Each one inactive. Each one, listening. And Earth had made noise. Back in high Earth orbit, the original prototype remained docked. It had not moved since its return from the first confrontation. But now, for the first time in months, it powered up. Not a full ignition, just a pulse. A signal, received by one destination only. The variant. Far beyond the edge of explored space, the variant slowed. It had reached what it was looking for. A place that shouldn't exist. A spherical anomaly hovering in a void bubble between galaxies. No stars. No time. Only a static field of perfect stillness. like the universe had forgotten to fill in this part of the canvas. And inside that stillness, motion. The variant scanned it carefully, and then transmitted a single packet of data back to Earth. No images, no video, just a phrase. They are watching us now. Earth's response was not panic. It was acceleration. Inside Europa's core labs, researchers initiated Project Aegis, the construction of a new class of prototypes. Not to fight, not to fly, but to think, to hypothesize, to anticipate. These constructs weren't built with metal or even bioblast. They were seeded into time. Living predictive systems designed to exist across microtemporal fractures, each one inhabiting different possibilities of the same now. If it worked, Earth wouldn't just be reactive. It would be prescient. But the cost would be enormous. Each prototype would burn through massive energy sources, require constant supervision, and, most dangerously, risk creating unstable echoes that might collapse local causality. General Harris reviewed the risks, then signed off without hesitation. "We don't need safety," he said. "We need to be first." Meanwhile, across the stars, the Ascendants made their move. Their version of the variant, codenamed Enlightener, was activated in a neutron star crucible and immediately bent the rules of space around it. It didn't communicate in words. It didn't obey any known protocol. It emitted dreams. Encrypted, symbolic visions projected into nearby minds. Not commands, possibilities. Some died from the feedback. Others changed. Entire Ascendant crews reshaped their neural architecture to receive the Enlightener's signals. They called it Unity Ascension. And now, they moved not with ships, but with synchronicity. They didn't need engines. They bent consensus. Their first act was not destruction, but conversion. A small Accord-aligned outpost near the edge was visited. Within an hour, it ceased transmitting. No wreckage was found. Only a final message. "We are not lost. We are becoming." Earth read the message. The variant received it. And then for the first time, transmitted directly to the Enlightener. A phrase in no known language. No translator could decipher it. But everyone who heard it felt the same thing in their bones. Judgment. The transmission echoed across subspace like a pulse through still water. The variant's message, untranslatable, unfathomable, carried no syntax. It wasn't language. It was intention, compressed and weaponized, delivered not to destroy, but to define. The Enlightener paused. Its psychic feedback loops, previously flawless, fractured into irregular rhythms. Its network, those who had ascended with it, recoiled, some screaming without mouths, others collapsing under the weight of conflicting futures. Earth did not follow up. No ships. No warnings. No explanation. Because the variant wasn't seeking conflict. It was drawing a line, not in territory, but in trajectory. Back on Earth, Dr. Quan stood before the Aegis chamber, watching the first of the predictive constructs emerge. It shimmered with probabilistic layers, its form constantly shifting as it passed through potential timelines. It looked at her, not with eyes, but with awareness. And it spoke. "You're late." Quan's breath caught. "How do you mean?" The Aegis unit flickered. "The architects have already noticed. Their attention is returning. We are not alone anymore, not even in time." Earth's council convened for the last time in physical form. From this point forward, decisions would be filtered through the Aegis construct, moderated by ethical weight and future shock simulations. The human element would remain, but it would be guided, buffered, protected from short-sighted reaction. Captain Jackson uploaded his strategic codex into the system, then stepped back. "This is the moment," he said, "when we decide not just who we are, but how we'll be remembered." All across Earth's holdings, from the orbital cities of Mars to the floating observatories in Jupiter's upper atmosphere, a singular order was issued. Synchronize. Satellites aligned. Prototypes powered down into low resonance. The variant returned from the void. Now partially phased into what Earth's AIs called temporal ambiguity, existing slightly ahead of the current moment, observing from the edges of unfolding probability. And from beyond the galactic edge, something moved. No longer watching. Approaching. A presence unlike anything in recorded history. Not evil. Not hostile. But so vast, so fundamentally other, that even Aegis stuttered when trying to simulate its thought architecture. The architects, or what remained of them, had noticed the noise. They were coming not to conquer, but to decide. To evaluate if the experiment that was sentience was worth continuing. Humanity prepared not a fleet, but a message. The final prototype, Aegis Prime, was built not in secrecy, but in ceremony. A joint effort between human engineers, Accord species, and even defected Ember scientists who had abandoned vengeance in favor of survival. Together they shaped a ship unlike any before, not for war, but for introduction. Its hull carried symbols from every major culture. Its AI was a composite consciousness seeded with empathy, curiosity, and strategic clarity. Its name was simple. Voice. When the signal of the architects finally arrived, measured not in waves but in quantum doubt, Voice launched. It meant the presence in the cold between galaxies, where space stopped pretending to follow rules. There were no negotiations, no translations, only exchange. Voice offered Earth's truth, its chaos, its creativity, its ability to build not just weapons, but wonder, its refusal to stagnate. The presence responded, not in form, in change. All across the galaxy, the old containment systems deactivated. The filters collapsed into light. Null fields melted into breathable air. The oblivion seeds, buried across forgotten stars, disintegrated into dust. And in their place, potential bloomed. New physics, new possibilities. The galaxy didn't just shift, it expanded, as if the universe had been holding its breath and finally exhaled. Earth was no longer just a world. It was a keystone. And for the first time since the stars were young, the future was unwritten again. Back on Earth, under a soft, early dawn, Dr. Quan stood with Jackson on the balcony of the Pacific Command Tower. The sky shimmered faintly, subspace distortions still settling. "We did it," she whispered. Jackson didn't smile. He just nodded. "We didn't win," he said. "We convinced." And far above them, in the black where stars danced free of structure, a simple phrase echoed, carried on frequencies now accessible to all. This was never about survival. It was always about becoming.